Hello, welcome to Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 9, Class and Legitimacy. And our topic is Legitimacy and Social Changes. Although Max Weber referred to three bases of legitimacy, but society has undergone several changes since then. Max Weber's characterization of the legitimacy into three types resembles with his other conceptualizations as well as, and in a sense, they could be considered as ideal or pure type. Max Weber's formulations although included important bases of legitimacy, but his list of such bases might not be an exhaustive one. For example, in modern society, another important base for legitimacy has been identified, which is related to professional authority. There are people like doctors, engineers, chartered accountants, computer personnel, and lawyers who specializes in their own jobs and undergo rigorous training and study for longer years to learn about their jobs. As a result of it, these professionals have a say of their own. They are free to take decisions in their specialized areas, and for such an action, they are quite competent to do so. Thus, the power acquired in such a way is known as the professional authority, and it derives legitimacy on the basis of specialization achieved after a longer period of training. One example might be given here. It is the doctor who is capable to decide the type of treatment to be given to the patient. Such decision cannot be taken by the people having traditional, legal, rational or charismatic authority. The society is changing at a much faster pace than before. This period of change is also referred to as the period of transformation of societies. During this process of change, it becomes difficult for the people to understand various claims for legitimacy. At times, we come across conflicting claims about legitimacy. For example, who must be the appropriate person to decide about the marriage of a boy in the Indian society happens to be one such important question. If the parents take the decision about the marriage, then it is the case for the traditional authority, and if the boy himself takes a decision and decides to marry in the court of law, then it is a case for legal rational authority. A married couple could derive legitimacy of their relationship to each other either on traditional or on legal rational basis. In the empirical situation, sometimes we come across conflicting claims based upon different grounds of legitimacy. For example, regarding the decision of marriage of conflicting claims might be seen between the traditional and legal rational basis of legitimacy. In the rapidly changing societies, sometimes it becomes difficult to really identify the real basis for legitimacy. The rapid changes that are taking place in societies of the world have created such conditions where sometimes it becomes difficult to decide the grounds or basis of legitimacy. In the classical sociological literature itself, we come across discussions where societies could not really enjoy the fruits of development. Development of societies along with it have brought some undesirable conditions as well. For example, Emile Durkheim has referred to pathological conditions of society. Karl Marx has talked about the alienation in the capitalist society. These conditions provide the ground for the crisis of legitimacy. Under such conditions, sometimes one falls or fails to decide on how to decide the legitimate grounds of action. In modern societies, particularly in the case of the USA, C. Wright will refer to the prevailing uneasiness and indifference in society, which has emerged as a result of the threat on the existing values, which itself are eroding fast. In simple words, whenever we come across some assertions like, "Who are you to say so?" or "Who is he to issue orders like that?" we could see the beginning of the emerging crisis of legitimacy. Whatever the older and known bases for legitimacy are questioned, and new bases have not yet emerged. Whenever it could be identified as the situation referring to crisis of legitimacy. This crisis of legitimacy has been seen particularly in the case of the Western countries, but some developing countries of the world might also see such conditions as emerging. Although the older grounds for legitimacy have been challenged in the modern society, but this resultant crisis of legitimacy could well be managed on the newer grounds of legitimacy. But one trend which could be seen as emerging throughout the world at the moment is that the area of legal rational basis of legitimacy is increasing every day. Now let us conclude the unit. The notion of legitimacy has got much wider applications than as it appears from its conceptual uses. In the changing era and in the new world order, the notion of legitimacy has acquired newer meanings and wider applications. Some countries of the world have democratically elected governments, and they derive legitimacy on the ground of being elected by the people. Non-elected governments might face some problems at the home and abroad, as it might become increasingly difficult for them to derive the sort of legitimacy required to rule over the people. On the other hand, people who wage an armed struggle against the state and terrorist groups do not enjoy legitimacy even though they claim like fighting for the cause of the people. In recent times, all the terrorist groups throughout the world have lost public support or sympathies, and the public opinion has built up against their violent actions. In the modern political analysis, one significant question that has come up is concerned with the issues related with elections. Elections have acquired a new meaning and new dimensions in the modern society. The issues like terrorism and organized violence are losing grounds in the modern polity. People in general and intellectuals in particular have been asking the questions like why these terrorist organizations cannot contest elections. In this way, elections and elected governments have acquired the sort of legitimacy of which even the thought or idea was not possible just a century ago. Some international organizations like the Commonwealth of Nations accept the participation of only democratically elected governments as its legitimate member states. The war against terrorism has acquired international dimensions. In modern political analysis, thus, the issues concerning legitimacy have acquired a new scope, meaning, and dimensions. Similarly, the international agreement on human rights and the establishment of various national human rights commissions in different nation states have given a new meaning to the quality of life. It sounds like that these human rights should become the legitimate possession of the people, and any violation against it, whether it is by the any individual group or even state, could be judged as a crime, which is an illegitimate action. Some issues provide us an opportunity to understand the changing dimensions of the issues concerning legitimacy. Now let us wind up the session, and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcasts.